USA.
The Expanded University, imaginative and boundless. The Death Star, an imposing storytelling device that was brilliantly brought to life by the self-made wizards of cinematic magic working for George Lucas. Images of it evoke nostalgia for the early days of Star Wars fandom, as with Darth Vader, Chewbacca, R2-D2, and the Millennium Falcon. It's iconic. But have you ever seen this image? Until a few years ago, I thought I'd never seen it, and I thought I'd seen almost every Star Wars image there is to see. It turns out that I had seen it in the storybook shown in the previous image, but that wasn't a book I frequently reviewed despite it having had a place in my library for decades. Before I discovered its presence in the book, the online image made me skeptical, so I did some online research. I had to dig pretty deep to verify the authenticity. It's an early matte painting of the Death Star. If you haven't seen it, it may still look familiar. The video in A New Hope of the technical readouts of the Death Star as carried by R2-D2 also featured the superlaser positioned on the equatorial trench. This is due to the creator of the animation, Larry Cuba, never being informed of the design change of the Death Star, with the superlaser dish being moved to the northern hemisphere. He'd been provided with material showing the superlaser centered on the trench. But what you may not know is that there is a lore explanation for the discrepancy. As well, I have seen some interesting suggestions from fans that would explain the matte painting. The Essential Guide to Warfare directly addresses the issue from an in-universe perspective in this paragraph. Let's read. The massive prime weapon sat at the center of a circular cannon well, originally planned for the battle station's equator, but later moved to the dorsal hemisphere. This would seem to address scenes such as the one in Attack of the Clones where Poggle the Lesser and Count Dooku view the holographic images of the Death Star with the dish positioned as it appears in A New Hope. It effectively puts the issue to rest. The readouts shown in A New Hope are assumed to be plans that feature everything in the final design save for the location of the dish. Note that other vessels had their primary weapon located near the midpoint of their roughly spherical shapes. The torpedo sphere was used to disable planetary shield generators. The weapons array featured 500 proton torpedo launchers and 10 turbolaser batteries. After sensors identified the source of the shield, the torpedo launch and turbolasers would be synchronized, with the overwhelming torpedo salvo weakening the impact site on the shields for brief microseconds, followed closely behind by the turbolaser blasts, which would destroy the generator on the surface of the planet. The Eye of Palpatine was constructed from an asteroid. It had the firepower to decimate the surface of a planet. In New Jedi Order, Dark Tide 2, Ruin, Luke posits that Palpatine had two eyes, so there could have been two Eye of Palpatine vessels. The Death Star in the early matte painting also resembles an eye. Going back to it, one proposal I once saw online from a fan is that the centered dish is actually a Sublight drive located on the side of the Death Star we never see in the film. In these shots and many others, you are not able to see what is on the other side of the battle station. The assumption would be that the design elements, such as the drive, are not included in the readouts and plans shown on screen. Why would the drive be of the same shape and size as the superlaser is beyond me. Honestly, it's an example of why theories are generally stupid. If there isn't any evidence of something, then there is no reason to lend it credence any more than dozens of other theories. As well, the layouts of the first Death Star in many publications show the location of the Sublight engines. The complete vehicle's cutaway is generally accepted as the top of the hierarchy. The artists and designers have the Ion/Sublight engines and accompanying reactor to the west of the superlaser dish. Based on this passage from the Death Star Technical Companion from West End Games, there were multiple ports. Let's read. While many types and models of Sublight engines exist, The Death Star employed a series of ion engines that converted power cell output into fusion reaction particles. For sake of simplicity, the cutaway of the Death Star shows 1. Multiple ports spaced around the station enables it to move in different directions, such as when approaching Alderaan and Yavin in A New Hope. For rotation and finer maneuvering, it is likely that the ion engines can direct thrust in multiple directions, as with the TIE Fighter's twin ion engine capability. Let's read from the Star Wars sourcebook. Pilots can direct the ion particles in almost any direction, giving the craft excellent maneuverability. The old matte painting is interesting to look at. Not only did the concept make its way into the film, but also into publications published well after the film's release. But at the end of the day, the keepers of the lore from the era of real Lucasfilm had it covered.